We are now in the collections room of the Fort Des Moines Museum and Education Center, where many of the artifacts in our collection are stored. While we try and put as many artifacts as we can out on display in the galleries, we do have most of our collection located here where we can preserve, interpret, and eventually display as part of rotating exhibits in the museum. I've pulled out a few interesting pieces from our collection to give you an idea of the type of work that we can do with the artifacts in the collection, how we interpret them, how we can make sense of them, and how they can fill in some of the gaps in our story. For example, the photograph here at the foot of the table is taken in 1908. It is of the cavalry that is here in 1908. And while we do not know the names of any of the men featured in that photograph, the photograph can still be very, very telling because of what is in and what is not in the picture. We can tell what buildings had been built, what buildings had not been built, and what the fort looked like at that point in time in 1908. Likewise, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of postcards in our collection, and those postcards do much the same thing. Some of the postcards have writing on the back, and we can tell a story about who sent the postcard, to whom they sent it, and get more information. Some of the postcards have nothing on them at all, but once again, they can give us a sense of what the fort looked like at the time. This one is taken in the 1940s when the WACs were here as part of World War II. We have items of a more personal nature in our collection as well. The scrapbook featured here on the table has got photographs and images taken by one of the WAC recruits who trained here. And the pages that it's open to right now show what she was doing on her time off. The soldiers here got leave on Sundays, and so on one particular day, this soldier went to downtown Des Moines and toured the Capitol. And so we not only learn about her experiences as a soldier, but we learn about her greater experiences while she was in Des Moines. Another item of a more personal nature is the graduation gown we have here. In a different video, we talk about Betty Bandel, who served here at the base and then served Colonel Aveda Kolb-Hobby in her work running the WACs. Betty Bandel used the GI Bill after the war to go and get her degree and eventually her PhD, and served as a professor at the University of Brabant until the end of her career. And we have in our collection her graduation gowns. And it seems a little strange that a museum dedicated to military history would have graduation gowns. But Betty thought they were part of her greater story. She donated them to us because it was her service that allowed her to have this educational opportunity. We also have items like this, very innocuous looking portfolio, but once you open up the cover, you realize that this is the original stock of the Iowa Colored Investment Company. This was a company started by some of the African Americans in the Des Moines community, many of whom who were serving at the fort as part of that first officer class, because they recognized the limited investment opportunities for the black community in Des Moines. And so they started their own. And it's a great indicator of how self-aware and how socially aware the men who served here were. They understood that they were part of a greater narrative and a greater story. And so even though many of these were very young men, they recognized what role they had in the community and were starting things like the Iowa Colored Investment Company to support those in the community as well. And finally, we pulled out two WAC dolls, one of which is a prefabricated plastic doll over here, and one of which is a handmade doll. And we don't know who owned these dolls. We don't know who used these dolls. We don't know if they were owned by a child and played with, or if they were made after the war and were part of a display. But they again give us some insight into the WAC experience and how little girls may have wanted to become WACs, who saw for the first time the ability for women to serve in the military and wanted to identify with that. And so there was a market for these dolls to be created. All told, the collections that we have here at Fort Des Moines help us get a deeper understanding of the history that took place here. They are the illustrations to the story. And if you or anyone you know has more information or has an artifact you would like to donate to the fort that would help us fill out our story more, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us.